Hey everyone, welcome down to the podcast. Before we jump in, I just want to say a massive thank you to the sponsors of the Rough Cut Golf channel and the podcast you are listening to, NordVPN. Now, I've been working with NordVPN for the last few months. Me and Mick and the rest of the team all use the product, so you know what we're saying is true. Then they've been fantastic supporters of the podcast. So if you do want a VPN, but you're not quite sure what it entails, Mick's going to tell you.
Basically, what a VPN does is it tells the device that you're using that you're somewhere else entirely, which is a little like magic, and it does feel like magic when you want to watch the coverage of the Ryder Cup that we're about to discuss in today's episode, but you don't want to go through all the silly American adverts and or you're somewhere else and you want to just tune into the thing you want to watch.
Yeah,
we were using it all week while we were here in America to keep up to date with the Sky Sports coverage. It's really safe, it's really cheap, it's really, really easy to use. And if you go to nordvpn.com/roughcut, you get 4 additional months when you buy a 2-year plan. Shall we talk about the Ryder Cup, Peter Finch?
I think we should. So go check NordVPN out. Huge thank you to them again. Let's jump into the podcast here, live from New York.
Sometimes golf is a pain in the butt. You hit your ball in the trees and then you lip out the putt. But if you've got a little time, then come and spend it with us. 'Cause now you're listening to the Rough Cut.
Welcome down to the Rough Cut Golf podcast. We are sitting here the day after the Ryder Cup, which has just gone down at Bethpage Black, and Europe emerged victorious just about. It has been an incredible week. We've been here for all the competition days, and we're going to share with you what we found, some of the insights that you might not have had if you weren't on the ground, and of course looking back at a famous, if nerve-wracking European victory, which wasn't really nerve-wracking at all, as the stats would suggest. So we'll dive into that. I'm joined here by Mick. Mick's been with me for the last few days as well. You may hear from our voices that the last 3 days have been tough, physically and emotionally, but we've made it through the other side. So thank you for joining us.
My voice is feeling a little hoarse. There was a lot of olays going on.
Considering I do a lot of talking, I very rarely lose my voice. But these last 3 days have been so intense. I mean, there's been a lot of hospitality enjoyed, shall we say, and also a huge amount of singing and shouting. We're over here with BMW, and they're one of the title sponsors of the event, and they've been fantastic hosts for us this week. We're staying in a lovely hotel just in Glen Cove. It's called the Mansion.
No, it is massive.
It probably gives you an idea about what it's like. Sorry if I just burped a little bit there. I just have had 3 eggs and some bagels.
I'm just going to show them the
pool, which we've not been able to go in because it's closed for maintenance. That would have been really nice to chill out in there.
It would have been good.
We spent the 3 days here. I think we'll go from, first of all, some of the things that we found, a lot of the talking points, maybe offering an insight, like I said, which we might not have had just watching the TV coverage. I think for me, first of all, if the Ryder Cup is held at Bethpage Black again, or if there's huge events held at this venue, I would please ask that the local officials build some extra roads.
My God.
And some extra access to get in. It has been, like, New York traffic, as in Manhattan, the city, is pretty famous for being, terrible. But getting in and out of Bethpage State Park, which is a massive area, obviously loads of golf courses, loads of route for walking. Getting in and out this week's been terrible. It's been really bad. I know nothing about traffic management or logistics or really anything. I barely know a lot about golf, but to try and get in and out of that event this week has been terrible. So please, next time. Like, what was it? It's basically like a 25-minute journey from here, and the first day, and then last night as well. Like, it took about 2.5 hours to get home.
It wasn't helped on Friday. Friday, BMW had also sorted us out some nice lanyards for the first tee and the 18th green, which was flipping between, there's loads of people here, so they flipped them Some people had it in the morning, some people had it in the afternoon. We had them in the afternoon on Friday, so we didn't need to rush to get to the golf course because we were just getting there for normal tee times. We're going to watch the first few go out, follow them around a little bit, get to 14, watch them hit the, we weren't really that stressed about it. So we didn't leave as early as we possibly could have. We
left at 5 a.m. So
we could have been on the 4:30 shuttle and we didn't get the 4:30 shuttle.
To say we didn't leave early is a bit harsh.
No, we left early.
A bit harsh to my body. Anyway.
We left early, but we didn't leave as early as we could have left. Anyway, we thought, it'll be fine. We're still 2 hours. We're leaving 2 hours before the first tee shot. We're going to get there in loads of time. We'll get a coffee, have a bit of breakfast, and then head over and go and watch them hit. We saw the first 2 groups tee off using Pete's phone in the Transport BMW on the way to the course.
Shout out to NordVPN for letting us access that coverage. Yeah, it was a bit rough, but I'm saying this from the regards of it's not ideal for us, but there were people literally getting out the lifts that they've got and walking down the highway, the motorway, to get to the event, which is not probably a state of affairs I'm sure anybody wanted. So, yeah, it was interesting. But once you got on site, once you got in, I actually really enjoyed it. I heard quite a few people. I think we'll probably start with the crowd first, but
yeah.
There's quite a few people saying how it wasn't a very good course to watch the golf. I can see it in regards of, let's say you're on a tee or on a fairway, there's a massive amount of elevation change at Bethpage Black, and a lot of the holes are raised up. So if you were lucky enough to see players hit from the fairway, quite often you wouldn't know where the ball was landing. You could kind of see it, but you're judging on the reaction from the crowd.
Yeah, like, is that a European cheer or an American cheer? I'm not quite sure.
But I thought overall, I actually quite liked it. I thought the property is really cool. The course looked great. It was D2'd a bit, which we'll get into probably later in the podcast about how it was set up. But overall, as a venue, I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed how it looked. I thought how it played. And overall, I think the crowd experience seemed to be pretty good. But obviously, get down to comments. If you were there, let us know.
Yeah, I think all of the warnings leading up to the tournament were to the European players and the European staff that the New York crowd were going to be hostile, and that the New York crowd were going to be on their backs the entire time. Which I imagine in Europe, the American players get a little bit more jeering at them than when it's the other way around. But do you think it was actually as bad as it was made out? Because going in, everyone said it was going to be horrible. Yeah. Do you think it was as bad as it looked and sounded?
No. I mean, it's the same as any problems that you have at an event like this. It's usually caused by a minority of people. Mm-hmm. It's always the case, but obviously the minority in the case of crowds, they're often loud. And that seems to be what happened. The incidents of Rory having a drink thrown at him and, hitting his wife, and incidents like that, they were isolated. And I think they would definitely focus more at Rory and Rory's group. Like, we were out in the crowds and we watched multiple groups come through. And I think there were a few kind of people in the crowd who were shouting at players, trying to come up with a bit of banter, I suppose. But I would say that every single shot that we saw out on the course, and we were out there for all 3 days at different points, no one was shouting in backswings. Like, no one was actively trying to put players off as they were hitting shots. Like, some of the things shouted at them leading up to the shots, were they over the line? Maybe, but only just from our experience.
Yeah.
But obviously we didn't follow Rory around. You saw some of the reactions that he had. Some of the things that were said to him must have been pretty bad to elicit that type of reaction.
Yeah.
I would say my biggest disappointment was not that the fans were overly hostile, but actually they weren't really as loud and as boisterous as I would have thought. It kind of felt a bit flat at times. Now, the first 2 days, I think that's mostly down to what Europe were doing.
Yeah, very hard to cheer for your team when your team basically aren't even there.
Yeah, because like all the Europeans in the crowd, and there were thousands, there were a lot more European fans here than I thought. Definitely a stark contrast to Whistling Straits, which is obviously the last one in the US, and that was the COVID Ryder Cup.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Which-
There's barely any fans at all, let alone.
Exactly. So this felt very, very different. And European fans were so loud those first 2 days because everything was going our way. I think we found on the last day, suddenly bursting out into song becomes a lot more difficult when things aren't quite going your way.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably what was happening over the first few days with the American fans. And if the rest of the crowd is quietened by the quality of the European golf, then it only takes a few very loud individuals to hurl abuse to really make that apparent.
Yeah.
So
very easy to get heard when there's no actual cheering going on around it.
yeah, and I think it brings out again, and it's an interesting dynamic between European and American crowds, that American crowds generally don't really know that many songs.
It's so true.
I think it's very, the dynamic of a European crowd, especially in a team sport, is primarily based on football, soccer. And we all grow up supporting teams, obviously not everyone, but the majority of people in the UK and across most European countries, football is the main sport. You know, we all grow up with football, we all grow up supporting teams, we all go on matches, and each individual team has their own songs, but there are a number of different chants which go across pretty much universally football, certainly in England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, and we can transplant those pretty quickly. If somebody starts a song, we kind of know where it's going almost instantly. Where in the US, they've got the USA chant. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
It's very weird. I mean, the left side, middle, right side, left side of the tee, middle of the tee, right side of the tee. They were starting to do that a little bit more. I really saw that for the first time in Rome. I've only been to that one ride.
Well, yeah, it's like it's a classic when the football match is kind of boring, or you're winning by a long way. The different, there's how the stadiums are in the UK is that the West Bank or whatever, the side on that side and the side on that side and the side on that side will sing that like we're the South Bank, we're the South Bank, and then it'll so, and then it got transplanted into Rome, like you said, where it was which it was huge. And then I almost felt like every time they went to do a chant, it was like, it felt very forced. It felt like, who were the guys on 14 who were there every day?
Oh, the Marshals.
The Marshals, yeah.
So you got the Guardians from the European side who were in the blue and yellow suits, and you got the Marshals from the US who kind of formed together as a rival group, if that makes sense. And they were trying to start things, but again, it just doesn't seem to be adopted as quickly. It's a weird caveat because in American sports, so the main ones, so you get NFL, basketball, say baseball, hockey. The songs which are sung at those, again, they're quite individual, single chants. There's not massive verses or anything like that. And especially in the NFL, when your team's in possession, your job as a fan in that circumstance is actually to be quiet. So if you go to an NFL game...
That's so strange, isn't it? Yeah.
If you go to an NFL game, it's all because the team are trying to get instructions to each other. The quarterback, when he gets the ball, if he sees anything, he wants to tell his players.
Right.
Just from even the act...
He's not got a microphone, too.
No. Even the act of asking for the ball to snap, like... They need to be able to hear themselves.
Right.
But then when the opposition team are in possession and, they're...
Yeah, you want to create noise.
Make as much noise as possible.
Got you, yeah.
But it's not... You're not singing, you're making noise. You're just shouting, you're jeering, you're making noise. And it is evident, certainly yesterday in the singles, when the US were in the ascendancy, when they were winning holes, it was loud and it was boisterous because all you had to do was just make noise. You didn't have to band together and come up with these songs. Bryson coming back against Fitz.
Wow.
Holding putts, it's just noise, it's yelling, it's cheering, it's come on Bryce, it's come on USA. So when that started to get going, that was deafening in parts and it was intimidating. And that's the type of atmosphere that we thought was going to be more prevalent.
Yeah.
But again, it's only really possible if your team's winning. and then the first 2 days, the USA wasn't. So I think
I think I really, obviously, like, aside from the fact that almost the entire board was red at one point, I enjoyed Sunday much more, you know, despite the golf, much more. The environment and the atmosphere on Sunday was way more enjoyable because everyone was singing. When the US were, you know, when a US team would hole a putt, they'd all go mad and we'd all go, oh no, and you know, then someone would stiff up and we would all go mad and they would go, oh, you know, and there was a bit of that banter. And even you know, we were very privileged to be sat next to 17 when people were coming down 17, and even in hospitality it was getting rowdy when things were happening, which was really, really cool. But yeah, you're right on the. It's very, very difficult to, you know, cheer your team on when you're getting beat by a long way.
I think Sunday maybe laid to rest a little bit. I don't know what happened with the tickets because tickets were going for cheaper on the Sunday, being sold through websites. The event was sold out, but the tickets were expensive, and the argument was made that a lot of diehard sports fans in New York area, Long Island, they were being priced out. So, you know, you had a lot of people who were more of the corporate customer. You know, more than once I certainly heard people talking about they didn't understand what was happening with the scores. They weren't golfers, they were here as guests. And it maybe, potentially, that had a bit of a negative effect on the noise that could be made by the home crowd. But I think overall the Sunday kind of laid that to rest.
Okay, so you're going to gatekeep a golf event, right? What questions should someone have to be able to answer in order to get access to a golf event?
Well, they should. I think they should be able to name 80% of the team.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They should be able to know what match play is.
Yeah.
And they
should they be able to tell you definitively the difference between foursomes and four ball?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they should be able to quite at least 10 golf rules off the top of their head, I think. If you want access to this event.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can come in, but you just can't get close enough to shut the players.
Yeah. You just gotta sit away. So I think Sunday laid that to rest, definitely. And it's just, I don't know. I felt maybe because I'd built the hostility up in my mind a lot before we came, I thought that the fan interaction on a whole was boisterous, but it was okay.
Yeah.
And it was only really what I would say normally, and I'm trying to defend like the home crowd here because it is again the minority. There were probably it was a minority plus.
Yeah, it was a minority of people who then, when that minority weren't ejected or told off, they were like, "Oh, are we allowed to? Are we allowed to say that?"
But it wasn't a small minority, and it wasn't a large minority. It was just like more than you would expect.
Yeah.
Is the best way of describing it. So I can't sit here and say, oh, you know, the New York crowd was amazing and it was all fine because some of it did cross the line, as you would have seen and heard. But I do feel a little bit might have been blown out of proportion by the intensity of some idiots.
Yeah, and I think also your job as a TV announcer or as a commentator is to make the event viewable and interesting. And if there's a storyline there that, you know, some people are crossing the line when it comes to, you know, banter or jeering at players, then your goal is to make people interested in the product that's on TV. And if that's a storyline that's going to make that happen and make people want to tune in, then that's great.
I think everyone was expecting some kind of trouble, but I think certainly the US team, US side, well, the US organisation, if you want to put it all in one, as far as like the tournament was concerned, they didn't help themselves. I mean, on the second day when we were on the first tee, they had their announcer just before we got there, I think. So I think it was as we were coming up the fairway, walking towards it. Like the MC on the tee was like leading the chants of "F.U. Rory," which was really weird at the time because it was early in the morning. It registered in my mind as we were going towards the tee, and that's like going on. I was like, somewhere in my head, it was like, that's weird.
That shouldn't be happening.
But I hadn't had enough coffees yet to quite register. Like, I knew that wasn't right, and I was like, that's weird. And then we kind of got up onto the standard, and it was kind of done, and it wasn't happening. Like when Rory came out, those chants kind of started again a little bit. But it was like, that's just odd.
It was very odd.
Anyway, she got sacked the next day, which was definitely the right thing to do. Stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
And then the embarrassment. I mean, we have got the clips.
Oh.
This was embarrassing. And you know what? All credit to the US fans, because they were having none of it either.
Yeah, even they were like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that.
They were like trying to teach songs like to the tune of like "We Will Rock You." It's like Scotty Scheffler, and it was like trying to teach like kids how to sing songs. And I think the crowd at that point might have been like, hang on, if they're telling us what to do, something's not right.
Yeah,
it felt really weird.
Yeah,
but
let's talk a little bit. Like this is your second Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to us a little bit about the differences between, aside from the fan experience, the differences between the Ryder Cup in Rome and the Ryder Cup in New York? Because the result was the same.
I think Rory's spoken about a little bit about the organisation of the event. I think Rome, and this is what's wild, like if you've been to Europe, and I'm sure Europeans, our good Italian friends, and I absolutely love going to Italy. It's one of my favourite places, and I love Italian people. Like, I wouldn't back them over other countries to organise a massive event. A lot of finger pointing, and I'm saying this because we did go to Marco Simone it was a few months before the event was going on. The grandstands were up, and they'd built this massive access road outside to ease the traffic. And even the road hadn't even been laid yet. And I was
dirt.
I was asking like some people, I was like, when's this road going to be ready? And
the tournament's
and it was like a proper like.
Yeah, I'm sure someone will make it.
What's the date going to be? It'll be ready. Oh my God! And it was like, where's all the parking going to be? He said,
there is a field.
It's just over there. It's just, jeez. And I thought it was going to be an absolute mess, but it was the hosting and the scheduling of it. Everything went really pretty well.
And on the flip side, in New York,
and you know what?
They hadn't built any new roads. They hadn't organised enough access. They didn't have police directing people.
It was weird. It kind of like it almost snuck up on them.
Yeah.
But the last thing I'll say on this point as well, and this is something that we're seeming to see the Ryder Cup, especially in Europe, is that a lot of these events are starting to be hosted around the big cities. So I think Bethpage in itself was the New York Ryder Cup. Mm-hmm. I know it's been Brookline before, but this was like a New York Ryder Cup. And then a couple of events time in Europe, it's going to be like Barcelona.
Yeah,
we've had Paris, obviously we've had Rome.
Mm-hmm.
The Rome one worked because we stayed in Rome. You could still get out from Rome to the event. Bit of traffic, obviously, but it could work. It didn't feel like we could go back to New York.
No, in fact, we didn't. We had all of Thursday. We got here late Wednesday. We had all of Thursday to kind of do what we wanted, but there was no real way. And we also have today. We have all morning. We're not flying till 7 p.m. today. We have 2 days basically where we could have gone into New York if there was, if it was feasible. But it's 2 hours and 2.5 hours on public transport. The shuttles, none of them were going into the city. So it did feel removed from the main attraction of this area. Like I haven't had a dollar slice of pizza. I haven't heard someone shout at a taxi. I haven't been to Times Square. I haven't done any of the...
Those are three things about New York. Yeah.
I haven't done any of the touristy things that I wanted to do while I was here at Peter Finch.
But we're not in New York.
We're not,
so that's the thing. But I know some people were getting like trains in and out, but anyway. So I can't remember where we were going with that. Differences between the two.
Anyway, okay, so the next thing to bring up then, we've talked about the crowd, we've talked a little bit about the golf course, we're going to get into that a little bit more. The other thing that was a big talking point coming into the tournament was that the US players were getting paid to play. There was, I think Luke Donald said in his, even in his speech at the opening ceremony.
Oh, he made it a thing.
Yeah. We're not here to make money. We're here to make history. And I think the overwhelming sentiment from everyone I've spoken to who was a European fan was that they didn't like the fact that American players were getting paid, and they really liked the fact that the European players had been offered it and said, that's not why we're here.
Yeah. I think it makes a statement, and golf at the level that these guys play, the monetary rewards are huge. And the best way I can describe it, and the way I've always thought about this, is if you're lucky enough to be one of the 12 players on each team who make the final selection, who manage to play in this event, you will have had an incredible 2 years to get into that team.
You gazillionaire.
If you're an automatic selection for the Ryder Cup, especially on the US side, but the European side as well, because most of the players there play on the PGA Tour. There is a European Tour aspect of this, which we might go into in a bit, but also we've got Live. These guys are multi-millionaires many times over. Some of these players are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And that is amazing for them. It's incredible.
Well done, you worked hard to get there.
Yeah, the professional golfers, they have a skill that no one else can do, and they're in a sport which pays them incredibly well for that skill, and it's amazing. If you get to the Ryder Cup, and you get paid $500,000, which the American players got, and they donate 300 of that to charity, I think.
I think so, yeah.
So they walk away with 200K. A few of the players, like Bryson, has said he'll donate all of it. It's not an amount of money which is going to make a lot of difference to these guys, if any. And all it does is it turns the majority of golfers who would, in their minds, give anything to play in this event. It's the same as when footballers have complaints about their lives. Even if they're justified, the majority of people will turn around and say, stop moaning, you're playing football for a living, something that we would dream about doing. The honour of running out on your home team and wearing that shirt, in a lot of people's mind, they wouldn't have to be paid for that. It would be glorious. Imagine running out, representing your country, representing England at Wembley, for example. Oh my God, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to pay me for that.
I would probably pay to do it.
It's the honour of a lifetime. And a lot of people feel that way about the Ryder Cup. It's one of the events within our sport which remains pure. Now, there's a lot of caveats to that, as we might get into, but from a playing perspective, you represent your country, you represent the flag, and you don't have to be paid for that honour. It's not like these players are losing any money from being there. And aside from that, if you're on a winning Ryder Cup team or you're a Ryder Cup captain, the monetary benefits that you receive before and after the event are huge, from extra sponsorship, exposure, and all the rest of it. I think there's actually a study on this somewhere. You might be able to Google it, about the monetary value of being a Ryder Cup player. It's massive. I think someone who worked out, I seem to remember in an article. So it just gave the Europeans, and it gave European fans, and it gave disgruntled American fans just a stick to beat the American team with.
Yeah.
It seemed like such an own goal, and I could understand from playing devil's advocate with myself, I can understand from the aspect of, if you're a player, say this event raises an incredible amount of money and revenue for a lot of different sources. Is it fair that us, as the star attractions of this event, the reason why people are watching, don't actually get some of that money? And I can understand that, but at the same time, just for 1 week, every 2 years for the Ryder Cup, just play for the passion and the pride of representing your country. Give us this. Give the fans this moment of pure sporting theatre without having money to kind of tarnish it.
Yeah, it's the purity of that event is now kind of tarnished, definitely for the US team, because when you're going down, obviously they care and obviously they want to win, but when you lose all 4 sessions on the first 2 days, suddenly you're like, do you actually,
You value for money?
yeah. Like you're getting paid 200, like you're getting paid £500,000 to be here.
Yeah.
And you clearly didn't warm up. You clearly didn't prepare to play this golf course in the way that the European team did. Like, it felt a little bit like they got their money and went, oh great, now now we've got to play this tournament, but at least we got paid.
Yeah, for me, the money aspect of it was almost just it's like, we're playing in this event, and if we qualify for the Ryder Cup from an American side of point, we want it to be recognised that we are contributing to everybody else making this money around us. We just want to be recognised for that. That's almost what it felt like.
Yeah, we could just say thanks.
Yeah, because it's just from the money side of things. A lot of it depends on who owns the kind of rights to the team. So I think most people know, but if you don't know, it's the PGA of America that have the rights to the Ryder Cup Team USA, and it's the European Tour who have the rights to Team Europe. And the amount of money made from the Ryder Cup really does help support the European Tour. I think without it, European Tour probably wouldn't exist. So.
Yeah, so the and I think this is down to Shane Ryan, who wrote the book The Cup They Couldn't Lose. He did this great research into the European Tour. In a year when there isn't a Ryder Cup, they make a loss, and in a year when there is a Ryder Cup, they make a profit. So they need the money from the Ryder Cup to continue existing. The other confusion is that the PGA Tour and the PGA of America are two completely separate entities. Obviously they work together, but the PGA of America is similar to the English PGA, you know, the people who Pete pays to be a member of. You know, you become a professional golfer by doing your qualifications, and then you can go out. Like, that's the same thing. Pete is a member of the British version of the PGA of America. So it's maybe I'll make a diagram. try and explain this to you. But yeah, but it is.
But it's slightly complicated on that side of things. But yeah, it's a thing that didn't need to happen as far as the players getting paid. You know, the system is not perfect, but it's also not broken, especially for us, especially for the fans.
Yeah. So talking of own goals, let's get into a little bit of the course setup. In the post-script interviews, Keegan Bradley said that he felt like he made some setup mistakes. Talk to us a little bit about how the golf course was playing. You know, the preconceived idea of how difficult it was going to be, and then what actually played out. And then we'll talk a little bit about how they could have played to their strengths a little more than they actually did.
I think it's becoming increasingly clear that the US team don't have a coherent plan or a coherent understanding of statistics and how to judge how the team is going to perform because of that. Because with Rome, for example, like, that course was set up specifically to really play into the strengths of the players on the European team, namely kind of mid to long iron play. Now, the US team have kind of come up, and this is something which is not new. You know, we've spoken about this in the past. Almost every single Ryder Cup in the modern era, which is in the States, certainly over the last 20 years, the idea is to make the course pretty long, to shave the rough right down, and to try and turn it into a little bit of a birdie fest. Now, historically, this is because the US team hit the ball further, they're great with their wedges, and the courses that they play pretty much every week really encourage a go low mentality. You know, it's all about birdies, 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 birdies. Now, within the last 15 years, the whole landscape has changed, because like, the European team is just as long as the US team. They're as good with their wedges, and they make as many birdies. It can't be done anymore. Courses can't be set up with the understanding that the Americans are just longer and have better wedges, and the Europeans are shorter and like tighter courses. It has to be managed on a team-by-team basis. You've got to set up that course with the understanding of these 12 players or these 12 players. If half of this team from the US this time aren't going to be there next time, you have to manufacture that course to get the best out of those players, which is often hard to do, but it's not impossible. And it's something that the European team do really well. And Keegan Bradley in his interview afterwards said, yeah, he made a mistake with having the rough as low as it was. How does he know that?
Yeah, could have been exactly that. Yeah.
If he is saying that was a mistake, all he's judging that on is a feeling that if the rough was thicker, the US might have had a better chance. He's not looked at something. If he's got some sort of statistical data that said the rough being longer in certain areas or the rough being longer across the course will give an advantage to the US team, then why wasn't it kept higher? All that is just a pure reaction of, we lost, maybe we should have had the rough thicker. It's not based on any kind of analysis or data. And in the modern game, there's so much of it available. I mean, we're going to get into kind of the captains, I think, as well, and some of the mistakes that might be made. But it's becoming clear that, like, the US are so dominant on feelings and personal views and are not using the data as they should be.
Yeah, so the prime example being that Luke Donald probably had an entire team of meteorologists working out what the weather was going to be like in the 2 weeks leading up to the tournament and then on tournament week so that they could be prepared to play the type of golf required for the course that they were going to find when they got there. First of all, they got there a week and a half early and had played the course plenty of times before they went out, whereas the US team had to wait for Scotty Scheffler to suggest that they went on a pre...
And that's this Ryder Cup.
Yeah. Keegan Bradley said, you know, someone asked him about Scotty Scheffler not pulling his weight because he didn't make as many points as they would have expected him to as the world number one. And his answer was, I felt was very odd. He said, Scotty has been the best teammate in that locker room. And I'm like, well, if he was the best teammate, he would have put 5 points on the board to start with.
Yeah, but like if you've been listening to this podcast, you know that was never going to happen.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Well, yes. Congratulations on that, by the way.
No one believe me.
Yeah, in fact, should we ring David?
No one believe me. It's best prediction ever.
So he said that Scotty suggested they should meet up beforehand and go and play golf together as a team, and Keegan Bradley hadn't factored that in. And the other thing is that he had spoken to or maybe he hadn't even spoken to the guys who were prepping the course, and he was surprised. He said in an interview that he was surprised by how soft the greens were and how slow they were.
Yeah.
And it's like, how you're the Ryder Cup captain? How can you be surprised by something? Your entire job, apart from playing golf, which is the other thing, is that Keegan Bradley obviously was trying to play good golf this year. Luke Donald, has said that his best golfing days were behind him, so he's now can concentrate on doing the thing that he's been asked to do. Like, how do you not know that it's rained? And, how do you not tell them to stop watering the golf course a week before and shave the greens way down so they play really fast so that Justin Rose can't putt the way he did?
We all know it was a mistake for King to be captain, not because he was a bad captain of the team, just because he should have been playing in it. It's simple as that. Like he could have been the best captain in US history, and if they'd have won this, then absolutely great. But it doesn't detract from the fact that his play over the last 2 years warrants him a place in this team above other players that he had to pick. So anyway, the course conditioning and the way it was set up, I think it's easy to say it played a big part, but we don't know what the stats that they use. We don't know the thinking behind the course setup. Obviously, the rain earlier in the week probably didn't help it being soft, but I don't think it would have made a massive result difference.
Right.
I really just don't think it was. I think everything that goes into the Ryder Cup, aside from the course setup, certainly in this iteration of the event, probably made more of a difference. Like the planning, like I said, the European Ryder Cup team getting here pretty much 2 weeks before, playing the course, loads of time, ingratiating themselves within the local area, so their body clocks weren't messed up, they were acclimatized to Eastern time, all these little things. And also, we were talking about players giving up their time for free, the European team have given up multiple weeks leading up to this event to get themselves in the best shape possible. And they weren't asking to be paid for that either. So.
Yeah. Talk to me about lift, clean, and place, because does that kind of thing make a massive difference in a tournament like this? Do you think people should have to hit mud balls? Isn't it basically the same as pulling your ball out of a divot that someone else made in the group in front of you? Like,
with lift, clean, and place, I think, especially when it's a team event, that doesn't make a difference because both teams are doing the same thing. I honestly don't think it makes a difference. It might make scoring a bit easier because when you get your ball in your hand, you can clean it, you can tee it up, you can get it in really good line.
You can tee it up?
Basically, yeah.
Oh my God, did they not know that? Because that is a real cheat code if you can stick it on a tee. They're hitting a lot of drivers.
So it's like, it doesn't really make a difference. And I think it was just a product of it being wet, and it does take out a little bit of the unfairness of what mud balls do. So yeah, I think that's just a product of the rain.
Yeah. Okay, so this, I pulled out some stats for us here. This is from Data Golf's stat bot. I implore you, if you are a golf fan, even in a kind of casual, in a casual way, Data Golf is so sick. It's so fun because you can just go in, find all of these studies that they've done about how the world of professional golf is measured, and how people have played well and how people have played badly. And this one here, the stat bot has showed the best 15 individual sessions by strokes gained total of the 2025 Ryder Cup. Now, some of these are pretty flaming obvious, namely the one at the top there, which is Justin Rose in session 4.
Yeah.
Leading putting strokes gained for the entire tournament.
Yeah.
Plus 4.56, which is absolutely ridiculous, getting a 3-2 win. Fitzpatrick in the first group, in the first session, absolute annihilation. He just could not miss. That was a 5-3 win. Russell Henley was I didn't think he was going to be as good as he was as a rookie.
Again, if only someone would have said.
If only someone would have said is he the number 3 player in the world? He's the number 3 player in the world. I think pre-tournament, all I had spoken about to people was that we shouldn't really have to worry about the veterans on their team. Obviously, Justin Thomas had a really, really good tournament eventually. But the people who we needed to panic about were JJ Spawn, Cameron Young, who had an incredible tournament, Russell Henley. The guys who had never played in the Ryder Cup before were our biggest threats. So those were really interesting. And then these ones here are also very interesting. Yeah. The worst 15 individual sessions by strokes gained total of the 2025 Ryder Cup. Unfortunately, Rasmus Højgaard, 0 points acquired for the team. Yeah. Obviously will have played a role being in and around the team. Both the Højgaard twins were with them on the trip for the entire time. Talk to us about some of these performances, both good and bad. What were we expecting? What were we not expecting? I think, how did it play out?
I think we'll throw these up. Talking through these on, certainly from a video standpoint, if you are watching this on YouTube, subscribe if you haven't already. If you are listening to this, like I say, you can go to Data Golf and have a look, or hop over to the podcast if you want more information. But I think it shows a couple of things for me, that obviously overall, especially in the best individual sessions, the European team.
Oh, the ice machine's just turned on.
Ice machine. Jesus, it sounds like it's actually producing a ski slope. If we have some noise cancellation.
Yeah, the noise cancellation will have kicked in at this point, don't you worry.
Okay, that's great. It shows like, certainly Justin Rose, Matt Fitzpatrick too. Matt Fitzpatrick, for me, it kind of shows he was one of the players pre-tournament who I think a lot of people were negative about. I think he was the last guy picked. He was the one who had to prove the most pre-tournament for his selection. And an argument could be made that there were other players who were better suited to come play this course than him. He came out and he absolutely smashed it during that first session. He played such good golf. And even during the final session where he ended up tying with Bryson DeChambeau, you would look at them two physically and say, wow, what a mismatch that is. But he had such tenacity and like a real chip on his shoulder this week, like he had something to prove. And I think overall he did.
Yep.
And I think it was great to see. I mean,
just here, these are the eventual points acquired. So Fitzpatrick played 4 matches, got 2.5 points. So overall, 2-1-1. For someone who came in, like you said, lots of people writing him off as someone who maybe shouldn't have made the team.
pop on that one, I guess. Yeah, the
1 second, I'll just put this like that so we can still see it.
there
we go.
modern technology.
Oh, isn't technology great?
Yeah, look at that Scottish Shepherd. If just imagine that someone would have said that more than half the team would have more points than him.
Yes, so Scheffler finished.
That's crazy.
Scheffler finished in 9th place, ranked in the US team. Xander Schauffele with 3, Cameron Young with 3, and the bottom being Colin Morikawa, Russell Henley, and Harris English, followed swiftly by the best player in the world with 1 point. 1, 4, and 0.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he only just won that point against McIlroy as well. Like, that was a very close match on that last day.
Yeah.
So he could have literally finished bottom of the pile, which would have been interesting. I mean, Harris English only got 0.5 because of the Victor Hovland retirement.
Yeah, but even he got half a point.
Yeah. So I think the standout performances there and surprises. I think Xander maybe surprised a few people.
He hasn't played particularly well this year.
No.
Obviously, he had a bit of injury trouble early in the season, kind of made his way back, posted a couple of kind of top 10-ish performances back end of the year, but we weren't expecting him to come out and be the joint top scorer of the Ryder Cup on the US team. So pretty impressive.
That was good. I think Cameron Young, again, did really well. Somebody who has never been in this environment before. He's a rookie, and you would say, does he have the personality in the game to be able to perform at this type of event? And I think he showed, absolutely.
Yeah, he's definitely long enough for the golf course. Then I think the like stoic, unflappable Cameron Young was very, very handy on that US team, particularly on that final day as well.
Yeah. I mean, the European side of things, I mean, ultimately, apart from the last day, everyone played pretty well. I mean, Rasmus only had the 1 session over the first 2 days, didn't score a point, obviously wasn't playing his best golf coming into this, but I think pretty much everyone else really performed well. It was just the Saturday where it didn't, the Sunday which didn't quite go to plan.
Yeah. So the stats reflect that form throughout the season doesn't necessarily dictate you playing well in the Ryder Cup. The only other interesting story from the outcomes of those is the Hovland injury. Played well the first day, realized his neck was not in a good place after the first session on day 2, had an MRI, Hatton trades in for him. Sadly, he has to pull out of Sunday singles for the first time in since 92 or somewhere. What's the drama with that? Is there drama, and why is Keegan Bradley so up in arms about it?
Yeah, so the rule, the envelope rule, is if a player gets injured during the Ryder Cup, each team has an envelope with a player's name in that will be benched in the event, in the singles, where a golfer cannot play. So Hovland, recurring neck injury, couldn't play. His name goes in the European envelope, and in the US envelope is Harris English. Now that's automatically a half point for each team, which it's a slightly odd one because, like Keegan Bradley, very much on the side of this rule needs to change, and Luke Donald saying this doesn't need to change. Now, I think that might give an insight into who benefited maybe more from the half a point with the way that things were going on the Sunday, potentially coming down to that last match, momentum building, or the rest of it. However, the rule is in place to protect both teams. And I'm sure in the future, it will probably work out beneficial for the US at some point. I mean, there's other ways of doing it. Like you could have a sub, but it would require, again, bringing another player with you. And I imagine that would be quite difficult for the other player.
Yeah.
Like, let's say Matt Wallace on the European team, he might have been the one to come in. Him sitting all through the tournament, not doing anything, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, he played the last day. I'm sure he'd have been up for it, but if he's not playing, then he's just here for a week for absolutely no reason.
And also, like, do they then have to have an independent doctor who says this person is injured? Because what if you're going through a tournament like Scheffler is, and you're not playing well, and you're not going to get any points, and they want to trade you out for singles? Do they just pretend you've got an injury so that they can put someone in who is playing well?
Yeah, I just don't. This type of thing very rarely happens. And I really don't think it was too much of an issue at this event. And I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue moving forward. I think you've got to have enough trust in your fellow players, even if they're on an opposing team, to be like, he's not playing because he is injured. There's no way any of these guys are going to sit out a Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way. So I think it was just unfortunate. I don't think the rule needs to change particularly, but I can understand why people could consider it odd, because if you turn up to a match and you can't play, you're probably going to concede it in any other circumstance, in any other sport. So it's a bit of an odd one in this circumstance, but I think it's partly down to, golf, and like golf is a bit of a different sport than a lot of others. So
yeah. The good news is that it wouldn't have mattered if we had conceded that one in its entirety, because we won by more than half a point, which is great. This stat you told me beforehand is very interesting. We're just going to go to this. The Sunday singles, obviously the US team went absolutely nuts on Sunday.
Yeah.
The Europeans started quick. There was a lot of blue on the board to start with.
Yeah.
And then it slowly started to erode as they came down the back nine. Maybe some of the European players experiencing some tiredness, having been out there. Rory said that he was basically counting down the holes because he was so spent after Saturday that he just wanted to get it over with. It was an incredible showing by the US team on the final day. Was not quite enough. Tell us this stat.
Yeah, so the US on the final day, points-wise, accumulated the most in a modern era Sunday singles, and they still needed an extra 1.5 points to win. Because going into the final day, they had, I think it was just under a 1.5% chance to win.
Wow.
Because the deficit which had been built up over the first 2 days was so large. But they gave it a really good go. And ultimately, like looking at those two teams and looking at the way that the points were split on the last day, like we only had one win through Ober.
What on
Literally
Ludwig? What on Ludwig?
And then every other point that we needed was accumulated by halves, which is kind of, I don't know. I think obviously it's a win for Europe and it's great, but this does, I would say, give a little bit of food for thought for the European organisation to say it shouldn't have been that close, and we still have a bit of an issue going on with the singles.
Yeah,
like the US is notoriously stronger at singles, and I think Europe need to figure out why, if they want to continue to dominate in this event, because it's unlikely that we're going to be able to build up that much of a lead consistently over four balls and foursomes. And if it was any other Ryder Cup, statistically, with that final day, the US would have won.
Yeah.
And ruined all the hard work that was done over the first few days. So
yeah, on the flip side, how does Keegan Bradley get his players to play like that for the first 2 days? Because clearly they had the golf in them. Clearly they had the ability to beat the players on the European team. They proved that they could do it. Why did they not do it during the first 2 days and save themselves all the stress and hassle of trying to do it on singles?
I just don't think they like playing with each other. I just don't think they like team golf. Individually, world rankings wise, I don't know what the layout is, but certainly historically, and we've already spoken about how stats maybe are eroding some of the long-held beliefs about the Ryder Cup, but like statistically across the year, tournament by tournament, American individuals are stronger than European golfers. I think it's pretty straightforward as far as that's concerned. And golf most of the time is played as an individual sport, and that's what the Americans excel at. So there has to be something there, but there also has to be big questions asked about why they can't do it together. It's very strange, and I think the team dynamic and the way that the Europeans certainly bond together in a much more cohesive way than the Americans, it's coming through, and it's coming through consistently, and it's obviously something which is being fostered by continuing captains. And unless the Americans kind of learn from that, then the first 4 sessions, they lost the first 4 sessions. They got hammered in the first 4 sessions, apart from like 4 matches out there. It's kind of crazy.
And even those 4 matches were due to like great individual performances by players not necessarily banding together, but by some players just having it available when they needed it. Okay, let's get to the captains.
Yeah.
Can you rank Luke Donald and Keegan Bradley on a scale of 1 to 10 with the reasons why you are ranking them there?
I mean, all right, we'll start with Keegan Bradley then. I'll say 6 out of 10. He automatically loses a point for not playing, which is not his fault. It's not his fault. It's not his fault, but it is just what it is. Like, he should have been playing. He never should have been captain. Not his fault. He should have never been approached to be captain. He should have been playing. I said it was a ridiculous decision at the time, and I was proved right. Like, he would have made that team better. He would have made it stronger, and he probably would have added points to this total. Simple as that. The aspect of getting the team together and bonding them into a cohesive unit, I think there were steps taken this year by the US team, and to try and understand a little bit about what the Europeans have been doing and why it's been so successful. But there's obviously a lot of work to do. There's obviously things going on within that team which are not allowing them to come together. That's one point. And I think the second point is the apparent lack of use of stats and the lack of understanding about who is going to be playing well together. I mean, talking about data golf, so Harris English and Colin Morikawa, they played together the first day. And it's not like it was a pairing which was unbelievably shocking.
Both very good golfers.
But what you would say with Colin Morikawa and Harris English, you'd look at them and say, okay, Harris English pretty steady, Colin Morikawa, great iron player, very good with his approach play. They are foursomes golfers. But you can't rely on that anymore. Like, the stats available which showed out of a possible 132 combinations on the US team, with I think it was Morikawa teeing off first or Harris English teeing off first.
Yeah.
They were basically 132nd out of 132 possible combinations to be a good team. They were statistically the worst players to put out together. Now, to do that once is interesting. Like, to do it twice is just a straight dereliction of the understanding of what is going on within that team statistically. Like, you've put out your worst possible team, statistically, they get hammered. You put them out again, and they get hammered. Now, to caveat that, they were slightly unfortunate because they were out against McIlroy and Fleetwood, who together are amazing in that format. But come on, like,
come on, Keegan.
It shows, like, and the interview he gave was, I put them out together again because they were disappointed and they wanted to get out there again. Relying on gumption and passion and, that can-do attitude of wanting to set things right when everyone looked at it. I'm sure even they looked at that again against Fleetwood and McIlroy and were like, oh, God, again?
Yeah.
Really? We're going to go out against them two again? And everyone said it. Like, everyone, like, from a European side to an American side, looked at that and said that they're going to lose. Not in like a bad way, just like they're going to lose. Like, they're up against those players again. So to do that shows that if they were using stats to begin with during the event, that process and that just that kind of way of thinking about pairings went out the window. Can I go turn off the size machine first?
You can give it a go. He's unplugging it from the wall. Oh, he's made it worse. He's made it worse. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Yeah, well done for
I will plug it back in.
solving our audio issues. Luke Donald has joined a very short list of European captains who have won away Ryder Cups.
Yeah.
Without looking at the notes down there, because I've written them down for myself, can you name the other European away Ryder Cup captains who won?
Probably not.
Okay, so let's...
Bernard Langer.
Bernard Langer, yes. He won in 2004 at Oakland Hills.
Yeah. Tony Jacklin.
Tony Jacklin, 87 at Muirfield.
And then... Is it Tony Jacklin again?
No. It's in the 90s, it's in the mid-90s. It was a famous 80s and early 90s player who got his go.
Bernard Gallagher?
Gallagher, yeah. Well done, yeah. 95 at Oak Hill, and you're missing one.
Oh, am I? This is the last one.
Alasabal.
Oh, right, that's the one. Yeah, I'm just going to have a look. Medina, of course, yeah. Yeah, about Medina.
Yeah.
I think...
So Luke Donald's in that list now.
Yeah. I mean, again, if he's going to do it again, I'm not sure. That might be an interesting thing to have a look at. I think this Ryder Cup, I mean, for the preparation and the understanding, I mean, yeah, we've got this note of the things that he did. So these are examples of the details that Donald went to. This is Jamie Kennedy on Twitter who's kind of put this together. So told the team to arrive a week early and stay on Eastern time in the week prior to the Ryder Cup. So they weren't jet lagged. They knew, their bodies kind of knew what was going on. Changed the bedding at the team hotels. He didn't think it was sufficient. I don't know what that means. Because all about recovery and getting ready. Swapped out the shampoo and the hotel room showers for a better quality and fragrance. Noticed the doors in the hotel had cracks in, so fixed that, so there was no light being let in. Each of the practice round uniforms was inspired by prior away victories for Team Europe. And then on the final day, the 4 stripes on the European shirts represented the 4 away victories. So they wanted to add to it. Like that kind of detail. I'm sure the people around him are making suggestions as well. I'm under no illusions that Luke Donald is not coming up with all of these off the top of his head.
I imagine his wife and the rest of the team are obviously doing...
Well, it's the vice captains. I think it's the tour. You know, he's spoken about using statistics. He's not crunching the numbers here. He's getting the information. Like Dodo Molinari is kind of a key part of this as far as presenting the data and saying, this statistically is what will work. And then they're trusting that and they're going with it. It's not a pure Moneyball approach. They are leaving themselves room to think about things from a personal and player's perspective, but ultimately they've gone down this route. It should be a 10 out of 10, but I'm going to give him a 9.
Okay, so where is he losing that 1 point?
He lost it on the last day, in my opinion, by being a little bit sentimental.
Okay.
Now, we saw this pretty much straight away. So the way that the scores had gone, obviously the first 2 days have been dominated by Europe. He put McIlroy out 4th in a slot where if all went well, he would have the winning point for the away Ryder Cup. I don't think that was by accident. I think he put him in that slot potentially because, you know, he's our best player. He's a great Ryder Cup. He can bring it home. I think he put him in that spot because he wanted Rory to have the glory. Now, I think that's getting a little bit sentimental. And if you're going to use a stats-based approach, maybe they ran the numbers and that's what came out best, for all I know. But it felt, again, with Justin Rose going off first, it felt to me like it wasn't quite the same kind of cutthroat, cold-eyed approach that probably led Europe really well in the first few days. Obviously, it didn't matter in the end, and you know the Americans had an amazing last day. There's no doubt about that. But statistically, and you know within the realms of possibility, the chances of the US winning on that last day was so slim. Luke Donald literally could have just like thrown all the names into the air, and whatever came down on the table, like Europe still would have won. It's just like, and that's not a disrespect for the US team. It's just they were so far behind that Europe literally only had to win. They only had to win one match and then halve some others on the final day to win.
Yeah.
Like that's how far away they had. This Ryder Cup was pretty much done by Sunday. And we could talk about the great comeback. We could talk about how the US team were really, really good on that last day. Ultimately, it had already been lost. Take all the excitement out of it. Europe had finished that event on the first 2 days. They finished it with that final session.
Yeah.
On Saturday.
Yeah. It did feel. We noticed it on the way to the golf course when we were just checking through the pairings to see who we were. We were also running a little bit late, so we wanted to see who we were potentially going to miss. And then we were like, oh, cool. Don't we only need 3.5 points? So that means if all of those three win their matches, Rory will get the point that will win us the cup. So it did. Yeah, but it could also have been in the defence of Luke Donald and the rest of the team. It could have been that the stats showed that Justin Rose was playing so well that he had to go out first because he was going to, put early points on the board.
Yeah.
Fitzpatrick could not miss an iron shot. He went out really, really early. It could have been that Rory was our fourth best statistically, until you realise that Hatton was way further down. Mm-hmm. Potentially could have been that he was tired. He had, played one more session than he was expecting to. It would be very interesting to find out how they made that decision.
Yeah.
But the decision really doesn't matter because on the final day, Sunday is the only day really when, aside from selecting who goes out when, the captain has basically nothing to do with it. It is down to the players to go out and earn their point. Yes, you can be on the green, you can give encouragement, you can tell people about where shots are finishing, like we were saying. Was it into 1-2 potentially? That all of those shots were spinning way further back off the green, and then 3 or 4 groups later, clearly someone had told Luke Donald, and John Rahm hit his to the right distance. On the final day, it just comes down to the players being better than who they're against.
I agree to a point. Because obviously the teams are drawn blindly by each captain, so you don't know who's going out where. But I think you could have probably predicted that Cameron Young was going to be going off first. In my opinion, you could have predicted it. He was their best player statistically, and he was, to get early points on the board, they were always going to front load. Yeah. So you could have made a prediction and said, well, okay, so if one of their best players is going to go out there, we're going to counter, and either we're going to go like for like, or statistically, we're going to get our best player out there, we're going to have a full-on battle, or we're going to say, okay, well, that means that as they start to get to the middle of the order, that's where their weaker players are going to be. Mm-hmm. So that's where we're going to stick our stronger players. Yeah. So, the tactics do make a difference, and it just felt like that was, for me, the only slight kind of misstep. But it did give us Scotty and Rory playing against each other,
which was nice.
But it's such a small detail, and like I said, the job had already been done, and it's an away victory in what was billed as the most difficult place to get an away victory for Europe. So listen,
we'll take it.
It's an unreal win.
Yeah, excellent. Looking forward, then, let's think a little bit about Adair. We're going to wrap up just by doing a little bit of dreaming about who we think the next Ryder Cup captains will be. Do you think they ask Luke to go again? And who else on the US team, who else in the US world of golf can take captaincy now that they're on the back of 2 losses?
Oddly enough, I think there could be an argument to say that Keegan Bradley might go again.
Interesting.
I don't think he will. But once you start thinking about who else will take the captaincy, for me, Tiger's the obvious one, I suppose, in some respects. Because in Tiger, what they could have, and we've said this with Donald, Tiger, it looks like finally, obviously you can never make predictions about this guy because he is, in my opinion, the GOAT. His playing days are done. He's gonna turn up at a Masters or 2 if he can manage to get around the 18, and he's gonna play. But we're not gonna see him out at all. That's kind of done for him now. So you're looking at Tiger in his career, what he's going to do. He's still young enough that if he was given the captaincy in Ireland and they won, they could give it him again. And they could give it him again. So I think for me, Tiger's the obvious choice. How good as a captain that he would be, I don't know. Like, I think he would be strong enough from a personality standpoint, and obviously standing in the game, to make some real massive changes if he wanted to.
Yeah. How are they going to say no to him? It's Tiger Woods.
Exactly, it's Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
So that is a possibility. I think Phil Mickelson's the other choice there, which, I don't know. I think Phil's the kind of guy who his approach to that captaincy would be very thorough. Like, you imagine him looking into, like Donald, like the minutest of details.
Yeah.
There's obviously a disconnect there between what's been going on with Liv, what's been going on with the Ryder Cup. It feels like those wounds have healed a little bit. It feels like we're at a stage where we're ready to move on. But
we're over it.
Yeah, it feels like everything about that is kind of cool to the point where it's not seen as this massive dividing factor anymore. Because ultimately, certainly for the European side, Hatton got in, but Rahm had to be a captain's pick.
Correct.
So that, if Rahm was still playing on the PGA Tour, he would be in automatically, you would think. Like, he is still one of the best players in the world. So that kind of conundrum is going to continue for the next few years unless, like, Liv get world ranking points or unless some kind of deal happens between the tours and Liv. But yeah, I think Tiger. I think Tiger would be the obvious choice for me. I think he's ready for it as well.
And on the European side, do you think they give Donald another go?
I'm not sure he would want to.
I even think that the players are aware that it has taken a toll on him.
But
because in the press conference afterwards, after Rome, all they were talking about was how Luke Donald was the man to lead them forward.
Yeah.
Clearly, he has said something, or that he said that it basically was. It's a hard job to do. You got a lot of people on your back. You got to deal with a lot of different companies, different agencies, different players, different managers, all that kind of stuff. It's a hard job to do, and I think he probably has said that he feels like this was his last go at it. But if you're on a winning run, do you change one of the biggest roles in the European team?
But also for Donald, like, bear in mind, he won in Rome, highly successful Ryder Cup, very, very famous victory, but he's just topped that with a win in New York. What, from a personal standpoint, as far as like motivation is concerned, what would be the benefit for him personally to captain again in Ireland? Obviously, that for me, I think I honestly think Adair Manor in Ireland is going to be potentially the best Ryder Cup that we've ever had. I think there's just something about it in my head, that the way the course is, like the setting, like obviously the Irish fans. I think it's going to be magic. I really, really do. And it must be an appealing prospect. But he's just killed the dragon. Like, he's done it. Like, he's done the toughest thing. So what's the motivation for him to go again? And ultimately, on the European side, we've got some absolute legendary players who could take the position, who would want to take the position.
Yeah.
There is a slight issue as far as Liv.
Yeah.
Because the European Tour and Liv, that disconnect and that parting was really possibly worse than the PGA Tour one.
Yeah.
So, for those bridges to be healed, and, if players like Poulter, for example. Now, I'm not saying that Poulter would do as good a job as Luke. I'm not sure. But if you're looking for somebody who really embodies the Ryder Cup, somebody who would give everything to that role, Poulter is really an obvious choice. I mean, you've got players who are probably at the end of their Ryder Cup career. This might be Justin's last. You never know. Like, he's an ultimate professional. He's still in fantastic shape and his game's still great. but it might be his last Ryder Cup. Like, he could be the one to say, okay, we're going to give this to you now. Maybe you could go twice. Westwood, Sergio. I mean, Sergio, bear in mind, the Ryder Cup is what's going to be 4 years when it's in Spain? Like, you would look at that and say, well, Sergio, this could be yours.
Yeah.
You know, you could bring back for Ireland, you could bring back McGinley. Imagine him coming back and doing it.
In Ireland, with Shane and Rory right at the front of the front of the order.
You know, there's lots of permutation. I would say McGinley in Ireland would be. I think that would be a good emotional choice, but also from a captaincy standpoint, he obviously did an amazing job when he was captain. You know, he really brought that stats-based approach. So, I think on the European side, I actually think we've got more options, but I think we've probably got more politics to actually steer around as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a difficult transition, a difficult decision, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Especially if this is something that we're going to start doing with multiple year captains. Because bear in mind, it's pretty odd in the modern era to have like Luke do 2 Ryder Cups in a row, and even after Rome, when it was like announced, I thought that's a bit odd. But no one like really batted an eyelid.
Yeah, it's because we won convincingly in Rome.
And I was like, oh,
if it had been close, then it would have been okay.
Yeah. I was like, oh, is this a thing now? Is this something that we're doing? I'm nothing against it, but there's certainly the mentality from former years was, if you do your time, you know, you play multiple Ryder Cups, you become a successful Ryder Cup player, eventually you're going to get the opportunity to give it a go. But that doesn't seem to be the approach anymore, which...
Well, maybe they just had to add in, and you stay playing on the European Tour on a regular basis and don't go and take the money on live.
Well, I think there's a switch which has happened between, okay, you know, you're a legendary European player, eventually you're going to be the Ryder Cup captain. I think maybe, like, to be honest, like something like the Faldo captaincy.
Yeah.
Which, you know, nothing against Faldo. You know, obviously a legend of the game in Europe, but his captaincy wasn't really that well received by the players, and you know, I don't think he was the right fit for that job. And I think maybe the European Tour are looking at things now and saying, okay, you're a legendary player, you know, whoever you are.
Yeah.
Are you going to be the best captain?
Yeah, you've got to buy into the already running European way of doing things. And if you, like Faldo's approach was that he wasn't going to really listen to what he was being told by the McGinleys and, you know, the people who were doing the research. He was like, oh, I'm sure I'll work it out. And it backfired on him. So the person that they pick next, particularly for a dare, if it isn't Luke Donald going again, needs to be someone who buys into the template, you know, who buys into the way of doing things, who buys into being as prepared as possible. And I think when it comes to Ryder Cup captains, it also has to, the people who have done it best historically have also not been the best golfers on the planet for an extended period of time. Because the problem is, it's why Tom Watson wasn't a good Ryder Cup captain, was because he was so good at golf, it came to him so naturally, that he didn't understand why his players couldn't do all the things that he could do.
I disagree. I thought Watson was all right. I think he got thrown under the bus.
Well, he did, because he made some very strange decisions, because he just assumed that his players would go out and play as well as they always did.
Yeah. I think he was thrown under the bus a little bit, mostly by Phil Mickelson. And would you want a captain who'd previously thrown another captain under a bus?
Well, Phil Mickelson had tweeted recently that he doesn't see himself ever being a Ryder Cup captain.
I think that's because of the live position, though.
Potentially.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. I think would he make a good captain? I would say that
he's definitely polarizing.
I would say that the captaincy position, to kind of close out, the captaincy position from a European standpoint has never been so tempting. Whereas I would say taking on the American captaincy right now, that's a big job, and it's going to come with a lot of pressure, because like I think it's 9 out of the last 11 now Ryder Cups the Europe have won.
Yeah.
Was it 9 out of 15? It's a pretty overwhelming amount.
Yeah. So the last 11, we have only lost 3.
Yeah.
Pretty damning stats, really. The only ones we lost: Valhalla, Hazeltine, and Whistling Straits.
Yeah, so what's that? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So out of the last 13, is 10 out of the last 13, is it? Jeez. So, you know, that type of record, that's dominating. That really is like Europe absolutely smashing the States on a pretty regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Someone's got to come in, and that person that comes in is going to have to change a lot.
Yeah. They're going to have to change a lot, and they're going to have to, you know, accept the responsibilities for making those changes. Because I think the hardest thing to do would be come in to make these whole vast changes to really alter how the American side is run on a fundamental level. And the chances are, because we know home Ryder Cups generally go the way of the home team, might not win. So they might change everything, might go to Ireland, they might get hammered again. So to stick with a new format after that, that'd be really, really difficult.
That's the real challenge.
Yeah. So they might give it to someone in Ireland who they don't think is going to win.
Yeah, just sacrifice them to the Lowry gods. Like, take this.
Have a go. See what happens.
Oh, good Lord.
Right. I think we talked ourselves to death.
Yeah, we're signing off. Go and
We've got some flights to catch.
yeah, go and get NordVPN because they're the best. And congratulations, Team Europe. Team USA, we'll see you in a day.
Will we?
Yeah. Cancel the event.
All right, guys. See you next time. I'm already in my messages.
See ya.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.